getting to the bottom of it with the greatest ship that ever sank.
The Titanic!
Looks nice.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Top 5 Myths, the series that finds the biggest myths that people actually believe and dispels them one by one. In today's installment, we'll be counting down the 5 myths about the Titanic that simply don't hold water.
It's got a head!
Myth number 5, there was a mummy on the Titanic.
There'll be another boat for the daddies, this boat's for the mummies and the children.
The demise of the Titanic has been inappropriately attributed to a variety of supernatural causes, such as the champagne curse. But this particular explanation takes the title of most absurd. A journalist aboard the Titanic, William Thomas Steed, is credited with kickstarting this myth, having entertained his dinner companions with the creepy tale of Princess Amun-Ra, a mummy he claimed was a fellow passenger. It's little surprise then that when the Titanic sank 2 days later, survivors would blame an ancient evil allegedly on board. Sadly, it was just dinner talk. There was no mummy stowed away on the Titanic, but rather a simple sarcophagus cover.
Oh my god, it's a sarcophagus.
Myth number 4, the cursed Hope Diamond was on the ship. If not the champagne or the mummy, how about cursed jewelry? The Hope Diamond is among the most famous in the world, last insured at $250 million.
No, the Hope Diamond is ungettable. Every thief in the world knows that. Almost ungettable.
According to legend, however, it comes with a much heavier cost, a deadly curse. At the time that the Titanic sunk, it belonged to Mrs. Evelyn McLean, who lost her son to a car crash, her daughter to suicide, and her husband to insanity. It's a strong case for the curse of the Hope Diamond, except one little problem. Evelyn McLean was never a passenger on the Titanic. Rose's Heart of the Ocean was inspired partially by the Hope Diamond and another necklace worn by one Kate Florence Phillips aboard the Titanic, but it's very unlikely that either helped sink the ship.
What do you think it's worth?
It's fake, mon.
Myth number 3, the soundtrack to sinking, Nearer My God to Thee.
And with my waiting thoughts bright with my praise.
Talk about setting the mood for a bleak occasion. In the film, the song performed by the band as the ship goes down is the deeply depressing yet undeniably appropriate hymn, Nearer My God to Thee. News articles at the time reported this particular hymn as the final song played by the Selfless musicians, but accounts vary greatly. It's believed that those eyewitnesses who heard Nearer My God to Thee and called it the final song of the night were those lucky enough to get off the boat early.
Nearer my God to thee.
Other survivors claim that the band later played upbeat ragtime and popular songs of the day to keep spirits up. As the musicians went down with the ship, their exact last song will never be known.
Hey, they learned it! What a bunch of pros!
Myth number 2, J. Bruce Ismay, the true villain aboard the ship.
The prisoner's the size of Titanic. Now I want them to marvel at her speed.
Every story, whether it's true or fictional, needs a good villain. Joseph Bruce Ismay was the chairman and director of the White Star Line, which is the company who owned and operated the RMS Titanic. And following the accident, as the senior-most surviving member of the company, he became a lightning rod for criticism. He was hated across America and the UK. In the film, he is depicted as bullying the captain into unsafe speeds and forcing his way onto lifeboats ahead of women and children.
Take them down!
In reality, there is no record of him influencing the captain, and the official investigation revealed that he helped many women and children get to safety before boarding the lifeboat himself. But hey, an iceberg makes for a rather bland villain.
He is even more eviler than Skeletor.
Myth number 1, everyone believed it to be unsinkable. The truth of the matter is, the maiden voyage of the Titanic was not the momentous, headline-stealing feat that the film made it out to be.
She's a beautiful ship, all right. Shapely, seductive. I'm gonna fly her brains out.
At the time of its inaugural trip, very little was being written about the Titanic. It was the largest passenger liner of its time, but its sister ship, the Olympic, had garnered much more attention a year earlier. Its reputation as an unsinkable ship was never much of a thing. That legacy was projected onto it after the fact because it made for a much better headline.
Every mountain is unclimbable until someone climbs it, so every ship is unsinkable until it sinks.
A simple tragedy of epic proportions was made that much more grandiose by adding classic storytelling elements of hubris and human arrogance. The reality is the Titanic's reputation as the unsinkable ship was invented after it sunk.
I can assure you the ship will sink as it has 1,000 times before. It is unsinkable.
So how many of these myths did you believe?
I haven't cried like that since Titanic.
For more larger-than-life top 10s and historically accurate top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
And now, without further ado, I christen this ship Titanic.